Hi, thank you so much for dialing in today to join our webinar, 5 Ways to Increase Your Taboola Revenue. We're going to be covering a variety of topics, giving you very actionable tips to increase your revenue, and you should be able to see results pretty quickly. So to give you some more information about who we are, my name is Alexi Surtees. I've been with Taboola for over a year now, and my main area of focus is figuring out how to help you as publishers grow your site and get more revenue from using our platform. And further than that, figuring out how we can help you grow overall. And then we have.
I'm Jay Gambaccini, and I'm a business development manager here at Taboola. Like Alexi, I've been here a little longer than a year, and I work with publishers to get them set up on the network, and then I also work alongside Alexi to help publishers optimize further.
And if you have any questions throughout this presentation, just type them in the comment box, and we'll either address them at that time, or definitely we'll talk to them at the end. So our agenda today, we're going to start by talking about some of our best practices. We are continually evaluating these, testing new things, ensuring that we're abreast with the ever-changing market. So these are really very much on point and relevant to today. Then we're going to look at Taboola Backstage. This is our analytics platform. If you haven't logged into it before, make sure that that is something you do by the end of today. This is really your guide to Taboola. We're also going to look at widget UIs. So what do we offer? Where on the page, where on the platform, and what are different ways of configuring this to best meet your monetization goals. Finally, we're going to talk a little bit more about traffic, and then Jay has some great ongoing optimization tips for how do you keep this good practice going over the next months to a year and beyond that. So the basic thing, when you implement a Taboola widget, the first thing we want to check is that it's actually implemented on the page correctly. If you don't implement it on the page correctly, monetization is probably not going to meet your desires. So what we recommend is placing the widget directly below the bottom of the content. You want to avoid any gutter space. It should be above comments and ideally above share tools.
Yeah, and to kind of jump in on that as well, I always like to talk with publishers and be very open about, the shared tools. They might have an about author section as well. And you really need to look at those numbers. And if you're the 1% of publishers that get a lot of the clicks for the share on Facebook or Twitter, it might make sense to keep them. But, for the 99% that aren't getting as many clicks, maybe 1 or 2 to the share tools, it does make more sense to have Taboola above it and make sure that you're monetizing as best as possible. Like as Lexi said, we really look for that, and we see a big improvement in performance when above that. Because a lot of the time, people, when they're reading an article, when they see the toolbar, the social toolbar, they know that they've come to the end of the article, and they'll either lose interest or scroll to another article, click back up. So again, we want those above the social share toolbars.
Yeah, and actually this diagram I've showed on the left is what it could look like on desktop. Obviously this is a mock. Everybody's site is a little bit different, but it's showing a way of having the share tools above and then also below, and then similarly for smartphone, having them above. You would also continue to scroll as my screen has just done. So this leads directly onto font size. When we're talking about smartphone, majority of you are likely having majority smartphone traffic at this point, or at least equal with desktop. So it's really important that we focus on optimizing for this as well. A small change, but has a notable difference to performance, is increasing the font size. So check today that your font is 18 pixels for the Taboola font, and that is bold on smartphone. And then if you have equal desktop or more desktop traffic, check that it's around 16 pixels. And bold for both of these is helpful. A couple UI trends that we're seeing here. As I said, we do continually A/B test, and so we're always learning. I think being in this industry, we're all learning from each other. That's part of what makes it so interesting. Something I'm seeing a lot of success with is 3 to 4 rows on desktop. Obviously, this is not for every site, but our standard 2 rows, more and more people are asking or are willing to test 3 or 4 rows. And this is seeing upwards of 25 to 50% increase in RPMs. So could be worth it. Similarly, for smartphone, 7 to 10 rows of the landscape UI is really, really effective. Similar uplift. So, I'd say if you're looking to get that push on smartphone, where typically RPMs were underperforming, this is really what's tipping that needle point.
Agreed. And then also, like the publishers are seeing, we see it more and more of the viewers, it's coming from smartphone to desktop. Maybe a year or two ago is 50-50 split. And now you might be seeing 60% of viewers coming in through smartphone. So I think that's one of the easiest changes you can make is adding, a couple more rows to the smartphone, and we see a good uplift in that.
And if you want to do that and need any help, we're going to add, follow-up steps at the end of this webinar, but just email optimize@taboola.com. So we're really here to help. If any of this, as we're going through, sounds like things you want to do today, we're very happy to help. MIDARTICLE. So, Adam, our CEO, I think he's talked a lot, at least to the press recently, about people not consuming the full article anymore. I think there's a statistic that, 1 in 5 people are not even finishing the bottom of the content. So the below article widget placement is really now moving up that page. So if people are going to inevitably click off after consuming only half the page, why don't we put a widget there? So if you have longer articles, we recommend that you consider adding 1 to 2 rows of sponsored content in the middle. We'll talk more and show you visuals of what this could look like in a couple more slides. So to that point, most of our publishers have more than one widget. I think different users interact with different pages and different platforms uniquely, and so you want to have more than one widget to accommodate that and increase your overall chances of monetizing. Specifically, this is improving visibility. So the most important thing is that people actually see your widget to have an option to click. If they don't, they won't even have an option. So there are a couple different widgets that we're going to walk through to give you a heads up. There's below article widget. Most of you, I imagine, are very familiar with this. A right rail, this would typically only appear on desktop. Occasionally it'll go on the bottom of smartphone. Mid article, great for long pieces. Escalator, this is a new cool design that we're excited to share. And a gallery, if you have a lot of gallery slides, which we see a lot of as well, including them in the middle and at the end. So before that, though, one of the best tools that we give you is Backstage. And Backstage is really our analytics platform. If you've never logged on, as I said, do that today. If you have more people on your team that need access, just email us at optimize@taboola.com and we'll make sure that everybody gets the numbers. Having that transparency can be really helpful so that you can all understand exactly how Taboola is working, because I think at times it can be a little bit confusing. So when you access Backstage, it can be a little bit overwhelming to understand where to click. So I've highlighted a couple of really interesting views to get a quick snapshot into your data. So this is just fictitious data that we have here. And what's interesting about this is that it shows revenue by platform. So as you see, page views, which I've called out here on the left, there's majority smartphone page views, substantial desktop, and notable tablet. But if you look at the actual revenue earned from these, desktop is actually making the most, and that's because the RPMs are higher. So when I'm looking to optimize, or when you're looking to optimize, you could then target your optimization specifically to smartphone. If performance was skewed differently, that would also be a different roadmap to target your optimization to desktop. I also just wanted to call out that you can change the date range up here on the top right. So you could show last 30 days, today, yesterday, 7 days, or you can even target a specific 2-week period, 3 months back. On the left-hand side here, we have tabs that you can view by day, by page type, by country, by platform. And you can also add filters in the section above that. So a lot of things to play around with. When you're looking at Backstage, though, the most important thing to consider is RPM. So this is like our golden metric here. RPM is the composite of CPC, cost per click, and click-through rate. So when you're thinking about what to improve, use RPM as the guide. Next. Another interesting part of Backstage, I think this might actually be my favorite part of Backstage, is the interaction funnel. So here is a really interesting metric called the visibility rate. And the visibility rate measures the percentage of users coming to your site that actually see the Taboola widget. So with all good intents and purposes, we can put a widget on the page and presume that everybody will see it. But the reality is people don't scroll down, they click up, something will obscure their vision. And so they actually won't even see the widget. Again, I've broken this out by platform because I always find that the most interesting. So you see smartphone only has 10.51% visibility rate here, while desktop has 48.61%. Less interested in tablet as the traffic is less substantial there. But huge opportunity to optimize for smartphone here. So this is where I would, if I was a publisher, I'd be saying, what can I do to improve these? These numbers should be equal. They should be, I am losing a lot of revenue and leaving a lot of revenue on the table if my visibility is so low for the majority of my page views. So as a guide, and this really is just a guide because there's not a magic formula for this. It's more just a general direction. Get smartphone visibility above 35%, desktop above 50%, tablet above 35%. If you can get better than that, even better. Anything?
No, I agree, 100%.
Performance revenue by placement. So in addition to platform, you can look at revenue by placement. So if you have multiple placements, most people have more than 2, you could see the difference in performance of those. So we talked about the below article thumbnail being the primary revenue generator. You'll see that really clearly right here. And the right rail is adding incremental revenue, not substantial revenue. This is also important to note, though, from the same data set as before, is that they're having more smartphone traffic. So there's just less page views to desktop where right rail is performing. If you added an escalator widget and a mid-article widget, this would all also be viewed here. So you can tab between each one. So some widgets that we thought would be interested to share. We are continually learning from the market as well. So some of them are suggestions I've had from publishers. But we'll start with the basics. So smartphone, your UI should look like this at this point. Previously we had a 2x2, but over the past months we've really rolled this out, and this landscape mode is much better. It takes the full space of the screen. The font is better. The whole user experience is much more adapt to someone engaging with their smartphone, where they're not necessarily fully engaged.
If some of you are looking at this and you see that, you had our old best practice, which was 4 rows, I would encourage you to reach out to us again, because you can see, the 7 to 10 rows really does engage better and have better performance. So it's something that you should consider for the A/B test.
Yeah. Mid-article. So to demonstrate what it would look like if you had longer articles or if you wanted it in feed, it could just be one thumbnail, very similar to how we show here. This could also be 2 rows if you felt like taking a little bit more of an ambitious approach. Again, very happy to help you set this up. The escalator widget. So this is quite an interesting UI because it only enacts when you're scrolling back up the page. So do you ever scroll down the bottom of the page and you check how long it takes to read? I don't know if you've ever gone on Medium and it says 17 minutes or 5 minutes. I almost wish all web pages had that. So then you scroll back up that page, and in scrolling up, the widget will appear at the bottom. So it's very unintrusive. We've had great feedback, across the market of it being a very seamless UI. So that's a great way to add further incremental RPMs. I would do this in addition to the previous statements to smartphone. Similar to a right rail, because it's not always present, it's just going to not carry as much weight as the others. We're seeing anywhere between 50 cents and $1.50 RPMs for this too. So for desktop, adding a 3rd row, this is just a visual of what it could look like. Typically for a viral site, this is working very, very well. Some people have 4 or 5. I think it's a balance between your content, your monetization goals, and how it all fits together. Gallery widgets. So several people have some great galleries, and I'm seeing that Some people are monetizing them, and some people haven't really tried that out yet. So it would be great to see more people adding an interstitial. So an interstitial is exactly like this. It's in the middle of the gallery. So say you have a 16 slide gallery. On slide 4, you would have a Taboola widget come up. This would allow you to monetize some people who would inevitably be clicking off the gallery because they didn't like the content or they got bored. And then at the end, you would have another widget. We call that an end slate, an end card.
And this is very important. It goes back to the visibility. If we're not being seen, we can't perform. So this is perfect to improve your visibility and allow us to actually perform.
Also, to that note, if you have multiple galleries, so say you have 20 galleries and you want your users to consume multiple galleries, in that end slate widget, you could include some organic recirculation. So you could include some of your own content with links to more galleries. So say you did 3 sponsored, 3 organic, and it would incentivize people to continue to consume more content on your page. So different configurations like that, we can get very creative. But if you have galleries, you should be monetizing them. Traffic. So not all traffic is equal. As you know probably better than us, traffic from smartphone is different than desktop. Traffic from different geos engages very differently. They have different CPCs, different click-through rates. Traffic from social is very different than direct. So in terms of traffic, it's understand where your traffic is coming from, understand the options that are available to you. We have many different tools, such as looking at visitor value, and basically helping you learn more about which users are being most valuable to you from a monetization perspective and how that's performing out on Taboola. What I did want to call out was just showing different CPCs by countries and how that yields a different RPM. So sometimes I get a number of questions about, why are CPCs lower or why is it spread across like this, all these different geos? It's just, these are how users are, this is what people are paying for these users, and this is how it's resulting in an RPM perspective. Similarly, I could pull another table, and I haven't here because we're rolling out another report for this, about what a Facebook, in-app Facebook user, how valuable that would be versus someone coming from direct or from a similar site in a similar category. So if you're interested in anything traffic related, we have 2 parts to our company here. One is the publisher side, and the other is the media side, and we work very closely together. So if you're interested in piloting, purchasing some traffic with Taboola and learning how we develop audience in that regard, we work very much hand in hand, and I think you can get a lot of value leveraging both sides of us. And we have some very, very effective arbitraging publishers. So more learnings to come in our next webinar in that regard.
Awesome. So the other thing is just the ongoing optimization. I like to tell publishers to check Backstage about once a day and do that, at the same time. So even myself, I check Backstage at 9:30 every single morning. That way, all the data is logged in, there for you, and you're not checking it too often and kind of freaking out. And this will give you a good sense for what's going on. Also, just look around the web and see what other publishers are doing. If you like something, if you don't, if you have an idea, a few of these new widgets we have are just adding rows. It came from publishers asking us, well, can I do this? Or I've seen this elsewhere, can I try that? So we're always open to it, and we hope you are as well. But definitely, give us some ideas. Let us know if you want to do something, and see what your peers are doing. The other thing is just understand your users, because every platform is there. Every platform is different. Every site is different, and you have to know whether you want to try something or not, if your users are going to like that, if adding another row makes sense for your site, and keeping them happy. Also, the biggest thing I think is just visibility. Always keep it in the front of your mind, because if we're not being seen, we can't perform. So I would suggest right when we get off of this webinar today to log into Backstage, check your visibility, and then maybe reach out to us to figure out where we can improve, whether that's smartphone, desktop, tablet, and we can come up with a game plan. And then lastly, be open to testing. A/B testing, whether it's against the same widget. If you're thinking, okay, well, I have 2 rows on desktop right now, maybe be open to testing that 3rd row, even if it's for 1 week or 2 weeks, and see the data that comes from it, and see if it's worth it in your eyes. But always be open to testing.
Yeah. So, great tips. I think we also love to learn from you. So if there's things that you feel that we're missing, if your best practices, it would be great if you could follow up and share those, and maybe we'll share them out with the group as well. In the meantime, I'd love to answer any questions that any of you have. I know a couple people emailed in advance with questions that they were excited to ask. We've had a couple come through during this session. Great. Okay. Do you want to read the first question, Jay?
Sure. So we just got one. It says, what can I do to have recommendations from my own site in the widgets?
Yeah, great question. So something that we didn't really talk about here, because the main focus was revenue, but equally important is engagement, is how you have an organic widget. So what we offer is hybrid widgets, and that would have your content alternating with sponsored content. So if you wanted to reduce bounce rates, increase time on site, those would appear very similar. It could be in the right rail. That's an ideal location for that. Potentially, below on smartphone, we could do a unit below the sponsored content, or similarly on desktop, somewhere below. And you would just email us at optimize@Taboola, and we could configure you with that. Something to add, actually, and from an implementation perspective, is that you want to make sure that you have the meta title, meta image, and meta URL, so that we can pull that, crawl your page, and populate. And then in terms of blocking those, and customizing the content that appears, you can add time limits. You can promote or boost different content pieces to ensure that you're getting that editorial experience that you want, and those controls.
And then a follow-up to that, someone just asked, how can I check the results from the organic widget? And with that, we would have to send you a new code for the organic widget, whether that's a hybrid with 50% internal content, 50% sponsored content. And then once we do that in Backstage, there's a section where you can actually click on the left-hand side that will show you that. And it's something that we open up for you at that time, so you wouldn't be able to see that now in Backstage if you just have 100% sponsored content. And it would be on the left-hand side as top source content.
Yeah. Next question.
So then the next one is, if I implement the code for the exit pop-up, will the widget display automatically, or do I need technology on my end for the widget to render? And the answer to that one, I get that one a lot, is yes, you will need to have technology on your end, whether there's a plugin on your end, or you can code something to have the actual exit pop. We would just supply you with the widget code that would be placed for that. So that would be done on your end.
Can I have more animals, cars, football, etc., or related recommendations? Excellent question. So Taboola's algorithm is behavioral. So what this means is that we have several algorithms, and they are probably better selecting content than your eye. And so they crawl your pages, and they learn about your users and what would be the right content to be serving at the right time on this device to this specific user. So what we found is that having, say it was a birding site, having content about birds is not necessarily going to yield higher RPMs. Or similarly, if it was a football site, having only sponsored content about football, people are in a discovery state of mind. And what that means is that they're looking to learn. They're in this exploring mindset. And so if you only show them the same content than they already have, they won't necessarily click on that item more. So I understand that can be counterintuitive, but we continually test this and retest our assumptions. The algorithm is better than us at selecting this content. So no, to answer your question, we can't only promote one category. If you have your own content, we could promote certain parts of that. That's the only way we can do that.
And the next question is, how can I add or reduce the number of recommendations in the widget? Perfect. So what you would do is you would email, it's the optimization@taboola.com, or email, who you've been in contact with. So then that way we can, make the adjustment for you on our end. It's something that we do internally, but if you send over a note, we'd be happy to do it.
Yeah. Another question, can you show me an example of a 7 to 10 row on smartphone? I'm not going to show you an example on the screen, but I'm going to direct you as to where to find an example. And I'll follow up with a handful of great examples over email as well. Tickled is a great site, and they have a wonderful 7 to 10 row or more than that on smartphone, and that's performing very well for them.
So it's tickled.com, but it doesn't have an E.
TICKLD.com. And they're a really great publisher who are trailblazing a lot of things. So some general learnings there. The escalator widget, is it only for mobile? Yes. Technically, you can do a desktop one. It doesn't look good, and it certainly doesn't perform very interestingly. So only for mobile. And this is, I strongly recommend testing it out because I think it's a nice little addition.
Again, A/B testing.
Do I need a new integration code?
So I think I answered that one in a previous one, but you could keep the exact code you have on site. If you wanted to change the number of rows in your widget, we would, again, just make a change on our end, and it would render in about 20 minutes. So you do not need other code.
The only thing that you would need to do is make sure that the placement of it is ideal. So ensure that that code is directly below the bottom of the content, and then when we open up extra rows, you'll see a very substantial increase in performance. How do we add new widgets? At the moment, the only way to add new widgets is to contact us, and we will send you new widgets. Each widget we create is custom, so that's how we ensure their quality. But our turnaround time is around 24 hours, so if you send us a request, we'll get them out to you. Do you have an example of a gallery widget in a website? Yes, I will send you examples of these as well. I think probably a good solid follow-up with all of these is going to allow you to look and play around and see different examples. Is it possible for all publishers to implement this pop-up widget with recommendations? Yes. I think that ties a little bit more onto your previous point about pop-ups. Yeah, anybody is welcome to implement a pop-up. The technology just needs to come from you. So we can supply you with that code, and whatever innovation you create on your end is great.
Correct.
Share them with us. Yes, for everyone who was late or missed the early parts of it, we are recording, and we'll share this recording and a follow-up one-sheeter with a condensed version of these best practices. So no worries about that. And if there's any specific questions, we're happy to connect later. So where in Backstage does it show paid revenue? If I understand this question correctly, you're asking each month, how much did you get paid? So something that you can do in Backstage is looking at the time frame, the date on the top right. You can look, so you can select that, and then actually on the left by day, on that left middle toolbar, you can change, if you pull down, there's a little tab, it says day, week, month. So say you wanted to see the revenue made in 2015, and you wanted to break that out by month. You select 2015 this year on the right where the date is, and then you pull down the month, and you can see, it'll say January's revenue, February's revenue, etc. I believe that answers that one. Yeah. Is it optimization@taboola.com or optimize@taboola.com? It is optimize. OPTIMIZE @taboola.com. But don't worry, we will email that to you. We have a lot of questions, so we're just going through making sure that they're relevant to everyone. Yeah. So for any questions, who should I be reaching out to? I'd say the best place to reach out to is optimize@taboola.com. We have a team, and we're dedicated to answering your questions and helping you grow your business. So in that subject title, just include your publisher name. That helps us answer it as quickly as possible. Say what your issue is, and we will do our best to help you out.
And then we just got a question about performance, and where you can reach out to someone who can help diagnose it, and the cause that whether it's a good improvement in performance or a decrease. So kind of to answer it all together, I would say to self-diagnose this, I would log into Backstage yourself. I would obviously, like I say, go check the visibility for desktop and mobile first. I would also check, your traffic sources, where they're coming from, country-wise. And then I'd also just kind of check your weekly data and see if there are any skewed numbers, what's going on. And then obviously reach out to your rep, or email us at the end of this to figure out, if they can help you diagnose it and kind of look even further to the issue and kind of some solutions to solve that.
I think to add to that, important thing to realize is the page is an ecosystem, so nothing is ever static. So if your revenue suddenly drops, think about, were there any dramatic changes that you made to your article length or any other possible changes? Did you introduce something else to the page, a bigger button that wasn't there before? Look at it very holistically, because revenue doesn't happen in isolation. Any other questions? One or two more questions.
Is there a lot of repetitive ones? How do we add new widgets? Again, contact us.
Anything else good? Oh, here's one. Yeah. Do your widgets adapt to both iPhone and Android? Yes. So each of our widgets are responsively designed. So if you're looking at it from desktop to tablet to Android or smart, or iPhone, which we would consider both of those as smartphones, the widget is responsive to each of those. So next we have the iWatch that we have to optimize for. Great. Okay, well, I don't think we have any other questions coming through. Thank you so much for your time today. It was great to walk you through this. We look forward to sending you out a follow-up and hearing your questions in the next days. There's a lot of revenue opportunity here, so continue to push yourself and see how you can improve, and I think you'll be happy with the results. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.